Okay, welcome to section 1.5, note sheet for geometry. All right, today we're going to be looking at pairs of angles. All right, so we will be looking at some key vocab words to start. Key vocab words, so here we go. Our goal will be to find measurements of pairs of angles based on the appropriate term. So the first vocab word, supplementary. Supplementary means two angles that add up to 180. So, for example, let's look at a picture of it. Let's say we have one angle, and let's say it's 80 degrees. Okay, let's say we have another angle, and it's 100 degrees. All right, these two angles added together would add up to 180. Therefore, they are supplementary angles. Complementary angles are two angles that add up to 90 degrees. So for example, let's say we have our first angle, and let's say it is 30 degrees. And let's say our second angle, okay, remember complementary has to add up to 90 degrees. So when we see that word, we think add to 90. When we see supplementary, we add to 180. All right, so these two angles, 30 and 60, add to 90 degrees. Adjacent angles are just angles that are right next to each other. So for example, let's say we have angle 1 and angle 2. Angle 1 is adjacent to angle 2. They are right next to each other. They share a common side in between them. Therefore, they are adjacent. All right, let's keep going. Linear pair. All right, these are adjacent angles that form a straight line. You'll notice the word line in here. So linear pair are two angles that lie on a straight line. So, for example, angle 1 and angle 2. Now remember last section we talked about a straight line, and a straight line has to add to equal 180. So in our picture, angle 1 plus angle 2 has to add up to 180 degrees. All right, and then the last one, vertical angles. Vertical angles are angles that are across from each other. All right, so what we think of as an X. All right, so let's say I have one line crossing with another line and forming a cross or an X. All right, now angle 1 and angle 2 in purple are vertical angles. They're across from each other. They're also equal to each other. Let's change to a different color. Angle 3 and angle 4 are vertical. They're across from each other. These two angles would be equal. So vertical angles are equal to each other. All right, so those are our big vocab words dealing with angles. We're going to go down and talk a little bit more. A couple things in these boxes that we need to reiterate. Two things. First is the linear pair. Remember, a linear pair is supplementary, so that means it adds to equal 180 degrees. Okay. Vertical angles are across from each other. They're equal. Okay. Let's do some examples and start to put some of this together. All right, so the first question says, find the complement of angle S. And you'll notice angle S is 56 degrees. When I see complement, I want to think that it has to add up to 90 degrees. Well, if S is 56, then I can do 90 minus 56 to find the angle that's missing. All right. Now again, we can do that because of the word complement. When we see that word complement, we want to think adds up to 90 degrees. If that's the case, then we're left with 34. All right, let's go to number 2. Number 2 says find the complement of R. So again, once I see the word complement, I'm thinking add to 90 degrees. Well, if R is 22, then to find the missing angle, I'm going to take 90 minus 22 to find my answer because it used the word complement. If I do that, I get 68 degrees. Okay, cruising right along. Number 3 says supplement. All right, when I see the word supplement, this time I'm going to think it adds to 180 degrees. Well, if angle S is 56, to find the missing one, I'm going to take 180 minus 56. All right, again, we're using 180 because this said the word supplement, which leaves us 124 degrees. All right, let's go to number 4, find the supplement of R. Once I see supplement, I think 180 degrees. Well, if R is 22, then I can take 180 minus 22. Again, we can do this because we saw the word supplement. If I do that, I get a total of 158 degrees. All right, so complement adds up to 90, supplement adds up to 180. Make sure you remember that. All right, let's go ahead and get to the next picture. Number 5, determine what X and Y are. All right, you'll notice in number 5, we have an X that crosses, so we have vertical angles. So what happens is the 140 has to be 140 over here. They're across from each other. So right away, we can find X because they're vertical angles, they're equal. Now, to find Y, I'm going to go back and look for a straight line. You'll notice in this picture, if I trace this line, let's trace it again a little nicer so we can see it. If I trace this line and I cover the half of it, I notice that this 140 and this Y are next to each other on a straight line. Well, we know that a straight line has to add up to 180. So if I have 140 there, I can do 180 minus 140, and that will tell me that 40 is left over. Okay, so vertical angles are equal. Angles next to each other on a straight line have to add up to 180. All right, number 6. Number 6 gives us a picture of a linear pair. I have 2 angles that lie next to each other on a straight line. We know that a straight line has to add up to 180, so if I take 180 minus 60, it'll tell me how much is left, which would be 120, which makes sense. These two added together add up to 180. All right, let's go to number 7. Number 7, you'll notice this symbol right here in the corner, this box. All right, remember from the section before this that box stands for a certain degree. All right, that square stands for 90 degrees. So I know that this is going to be 90 degrees total. So to find the X, I can take 90 minus 47. All right, again, we can do that because that little square box in the corner symbolizes that angle has to equal 90 degrees. Well, if we do 90 minus 47, that will give us a total of 43 degrees left. So we have 43 left. All right, let's keep moving. All right, we got a couple more to get through for today, and then we'll have you practice some. All right, now we're going to try to put this all together. So before I answer anything, we're going to try to fill in this picture. First thing it says is RPS, angle RPS is 110. So if I trace R to P to S, I'm putting 110 into this opening. Okay, now it says that angle 5 is 20 degrees. So I'm going to put 20 there. Now, I'm going to begin to fill in all angles in my picture so that I have numbers, and then we can go back and answer the questions that it asks. First thing I notice, here's a straight line. So everything underneath this line has to add up to 180. Everything above that would have to add up to 180. So if I look at this angle 6 and this 20 degrees, I know that these two have to add up to 180 because they're two angles underneath a straight line. So to find angle 6, I'm going to do 180 minus 20, which tells me that there's 160 left here. Now, when I look at this picture, I notice that the 20 and angle 8 are technically vertical angles. All right, if those are vertical angles, I could solve for it that way. I could put the 20 in for angle 8. However, if you don't see that, then you can go ahead and use more straight lines in this picture. All right, if you look at this picture again, I noticed something right here that I could use if I didn't see the vertical angles. If I highlight this line right here, the three angles, 20, angle 7, and 110, have to add up to 180 because they're on top of a straight line. All right, so if I did 180 minus 110 minus 20, it leaves me with 50 left over for angle 7, so I could fill in a 50 here. Well, again, if you didn't see the vertical angles, then what we do is we try to find straight lines. So you'll notice if I highlight this line right here, everything above it, this 50, this 110, and this angle 8 have to add up to 180 because they're above a straight line. Well, if I take 180 minus 110 minus 50, it tells me that there's 20 left. So if you didn't see the vertical angles in this picture, which sometimes can get difficult to see, we can always use straight lines and block our picture. If there are two angles above or below the straight line, they have to add up to 180. If there's three angles above the straight line, it's got to add up to 180. Now we'll go back and we'll fill in the answers. All right, the first one says, what was angle 6? So if I look at my picture, we have 160 at angle 6. We got it. If it wants angle 8, in my picture, we had 20 by angle 8. And if it wanted angle 7, we have 50 degrees by angle 7. All right, so again, we're filling in the picture using straight lines to determine it. If we see vertical angles, they're equal. Otherwise, straight lines add up to 180. All right, let's try this. This gives us a hint. It says a triangle will always add up to 180, so we might have to use that. All right, so here we go. Let's find some stuff. All right, I'm going to start with angle 1. If this is 143, I know vertical angles are equal, so this is 143. So we got the first one. All right, now what I'm going to do is find angle 2 next, and I notice that 143 and angle 2 lie on a straight line. So they have to add up to 180. 180 minus 143 can tell us what angle 2 is, or angle 3, depending on which way you looked at this. Now, again, we can do this because they lie next to each other on a straight line. When I do that, I get 37. So angle 2 is 37. Well, if angle 2 is 37, then angle 3 is 37 because they're vertical angles. Okay, I'm going to go work for 4, 5, and 6. I notice 114 over here, so that means angle 4 is 114 because they're vertical angles. Now, I notice a straight line here. So these two angles have to add up to 180. So if I take 180 minus 114, I can find either angle 5 or angle 6. Now again, we can do this because it is on a straight line. If I do that, I'm left with 66 degrees. All right, now if angle 5 is 66 degrees, we know angle 6 is 66 degrees because they're vertical angles. All right, now here's where we're going to have to use the hint they gave us. It says all angles of a triangle add up to 180. So if I look at this shape right here, I have a triangle, so it has to add up to 180 on the inside. So if I take 180 minus 37 minus 66, it'll tell me how much is inside the triangle because they gave us that hint that angles inside add up to 180. So that means angle 10 is 77. All right. Well, if angle 10 is 77, or angle 10 is 77, that means angle 8 has to be 77 because they're vertical. Now remember, to find the last missing angle then, I can use straight line, adds up to 180. All right, so these two angles lie above a straight line, so if I take 180 minus 77, we can find our missing angle. Now again, we can only do this because it is a straight line. I get 103 for the two missing angles. So, what do you take away from this? Remember, pick up on the patterns. Vertical angles are equal. All right, otherwise we're looking for straight lines and trying to make sure the angles add up to 180 degrees. All right, here we go. Let's get to the last one. L and O are supplementary. O and G are supplementary. All right, so supplementary, we know it adds to 180. What is the measure of L and G? Okay, so notice they told us O is 35. So right now, I know O is 35. Okay, we don't know angle L. We don't know angle G. We know supplementary means adds to 180. So what we're going to do is we're going to say 35 plus blank, or X, has to add up to equal 180. Well, if I solve that, I'm going to subtract 35 from both sides, and that tells me that our missing angle will be 145. So, angle L equals 145, and angle G equals 145. All right, so supplementary adds up to 180. All right, so study those vocab words. Complementary, supplementary, linear pair, and vertical angles are the big four for today. And then remember, when we start to solve, we're looking for straight lines or vertical angles to fill in. Vertical angles are equal, straight lines add to 180. All right, that's the first part of 1.5. We'll do some practice. Good work with that today.